I think one of the biggest misconceptions about senior pictures is that they're all about finding the perfect location. But I can tell you a little secret. We don't actually start there. Before I ever suggest a flower farm downtown Lincoln, a soccer field, or even your favorite Dairy Queen, I want to know one thing. Who are you? Because that's how we build a senior session that feels like you. Hey, Shutter Squad. Welcome back to the One Behind the Lens. I'm Kate DeCoste, and today we're kicking off what I hope becomes one of my favorite series on the podcast. Over the years, I've realized something. The questions my seniors and their parents ask before they actually ever book me or you are the same questions hundreds of other families are asking online. So I thought, why not just pull back the curtain? Today, I'm walking you through exactly how we plan a senior session from the very first conversation to choosing locations that actually tell your story or your client's story. Whether you're a senior, a parent, or another photographer, I hope this gives you a different way to think about creating meaningful photos. So we don't actually start with the location. I've never opened a consultation by asking, so where do you want to take your pictures? Instead, I'm going to ask, are you more drawn to urban or nature? That answer tells me way more than whether someone wants downtown or a park. So, first of all, if you're a photographer, I hope that you're doing a consultation, a pre shoot consultation. Now, I know there are some photographers that will do like a pre booking consultation. I don't do that. I do all of that either through an email or a phone call if the client needs it. But once that senior has booked, we have the date for the session, there is a deposit put down. I then want to book the consultation right away. And I am looking at least a month prior to the session. You might want to do a little bit more. I don't want to do too much before because then they're going to be like, oh, I have a long time to think about that. And then they're going to forget. So I would say 4 weeks to 6 weeks is a good time to have that consultation. If you're somebody that doesn't have a studio and you're like, what do I do about a consultation? Just do it over Zoom. It's actually, I feel like people enjoy that a little bit better because they can just be at home. They don't have to worry about meeting. It can kind of work with everybody's schedule, especially if a parent or a kid um, has like maybe they have like late practices or something. So you might not be able to do that consultation until like say 7:30 at night. So it's a lot easier if you just do it over Zoom. It shouldn't be more than 30 minutes. You should prior to that, they should have a questionnaire. So I always give out a questionnaire once they book. Like they're getting their contract link, they're getting their invoice, they're getting that questionnaire. And I just ask for the senior to fill it out prior to their consultation because then that gives me a starting point to kind of start the conversation that day. So it's not just like, so what are we doing for your senior session? So that's the first thing. Make sure you're having that consultation. And then during that consultation, you can ask, like, do you already have ideas for your session? Because sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And it's just a good way to like gauge if they've been thinking about it or if they have not thought about anything. Then I will kind of start with the whole, okay, so are you drawn towards more like urban, nature, country, that kind of thing. And that'll kind of just start the conversation. And then it's going to organically go from there. Depending on their session, maybe they have one location, maybe they can have multiple locations. So this will help. So if they love urban and nature, like they're like, I want to be like in a downtown setting, but I also love flowers. Well, if they had that longer session and multiple locations, you're able to do that. Um, I always kind of start with the location talk before I go into anything else like what they're going to wear or even activities. But then I do kind of go into that as well. So I will also kind of be like, what do you love? What activities have shaped high school? What's your favorite place? Is there somewhere that feels like home? What do you do on Friday nights? What are your plans after graduation? I will even just give them examples to like, hey, I've had seniors in the past, their favorite drink was Scooters or their favorite drink is a Dr. Pepper. Um, they are absolutely obsessed with Runza or, Dairy Queen, anything like that. That just kind of gives them like, oh, okay. Cause I feel like a lot of times we're stuck in the, oh, I have to do what I do in school. So if I play in the band, then I need to incorporate my flute, which definitely can. But if you also are a student or your client has a love for books, and it doesn't have to be, school books, but they just love to read, you can incorporate that. Or like I said, you can incorporate a location that's a little bit out of the ordinary that not every senior is going to go to, like a food establishment or something like that. So that's what I love to ask because again, they'll think about the sports they're in, the activities that they're in school, but this gives them something else to start thinking about. Now, if your seniors are like, no, I don't want to do any of that, that's totally fine, but I just make sure to like open up the conversation. And then if you're a senior or a parent listening to this, that's another thing for you to start thinking of what do I love? I love to draw, I love art, but I don't do that in school or anything like that. Another thing that I always get, it's not a question, but something will be said during the consultation, is, well, I'm not going to pursue that in college. Like maybe it's band. I'm not going to pursue that in college. Well, that's okay. We're not doing your college photos. You can incorporate your college, like, even at a cap and gown, you can do like a reveal or anything like that of where you're going to go or what you're studying. And you could even do that in your senior portraits if you want as well. But I want to make sure that it's okay, like if you're not doing that in college, but this was you right now. This was you in high school. Time out, friends. If you're a photographer, how many different platforms are you using to run your business? Editing software, client galleries, contracts, invoicing, your website, a CRM. What if you could bring it all together? That's exactly what Visco One does. It's built for photographers and helps you manage your clients, book sessions, send contracts and invoices, edit, deliver galleries, and even showcase your work, all from one connected platform. If you're ready to simplify your workflow and spend more time creating, I've included my Visco One referral link in the show notes. Go check it out and see how it can transform the way you run your photography business. So as far as like going back to locations, I had a senior who it was actually her total idea did not provoke this conversation really that she loved Runza and wanted to go to Runza. So we went to the Runza in Wahoo, Nebraska, and she actually didn't eat Runzas, but she loved their burgers. And I think she had frings. I think it was the burger, frings, fries, or I'm sorry, onion rings and fries on the plate. That was, like, such a fun shoot. It was part of her session, like, we also went out, like, out in the country. We also went to, like, a building, um, that we could go upstairs and it has, like, old, rustic look, but then we also did also was a were able to do the Dairy Queen, or I'm sorry, the Runza. So, again, it just incorporated that, and she got a little snack in the middle of her session. So just think of things like that and to start asking if you're the photographer and if you're the senior parent, start kind of thinking of things like that. Confidence starts before picture day, and I think that this is where people get, a little hung up on. And it doesn't matter what age that you are. People think confidence happens because someone is photogenic or they know exactly what to do in front of the camera. I think confidence happens because people feel seen. And when we've built a session around your personality or your client's personality, instead of forcing you into someone else's Pinterest board, everything changes because I am wanting to know about them. This is what makes your sessions different as well. This is why, there are a lot of photographers and they're really great. So this is another reason why I feel like I can get clients to come to me, and why I love what I do because I'm not just looking at Pinterest boards and trying to mimic what's there. Or, seniors can bring their ideas. Sometimes they will bring their Pinterest boards to me. Sometimes they'll show me what their friends did. And I am totally fine with that. I'm not saying not to do that at all. Or, if you're, a future client of mine that I don't want to see it. I love seeing that because one of the funny things is sometimes I will have seniors who will tell me, like, I want all urban, I want to be downtown. And then every photo they show me in their Pinterest board is all nature. And so I'll start asking, why do you like these photos? Now, it could be because they love the outfits or they love the poses. But I've had where seniors are like, oh, maybe I do like nature and not just want just the urban look. Because it also when they say something about they love the outfits, I then try to let them know, "Hey, I want you to start thinking about that outfit that you're showing me in nature. Do you think that's going to look like you want it to look in an urban setting?" Because sometimes, say if we're wearing a flowy, fun dress and it's in a field or in flowers, but if you pull that out and you're in, an alleyway, it's not gonna have the same vibe. So that's another thing that, I talk about, and that is another and we'll kind of be talking about that in this next series episode is gonna be about what to wear and how to choose all of that because that is something that you do have to think about as well. That's why I kind of start with the locations and then go into what to wear. But again, I don't say, hey, I think we should go here, here, and here because this is what I did with another client or this is what your friend did. Again, you can have like those inspirations. Like I love Pinterest for inspiration. I love going to Instagram for inspiration, and that's all lovely, but I just want you to as a photographer and as a parent or a senior to really think about who you are and how you want those images to reflect you. I actually say probably half of my seniors tell me that they don't have a clue where they want pictures. So that's my job. That's your job as the photographer. You're taking the pressure off of them to decide exactly where. I had a senior just last night that had actually never been to the Sunken Gardens, but she wanted flowers and they wanted to stay in Lincoln. We were in another location and didn't want to go too far just because the other location was like their lake home, and so they didn't wanna spend a lot of time driving, which that's another thing too. You kinda think of that too of, you don't wanna spend a lot of time of that session eating up that driving time. So we went to the Sunken Gardens and they absolutely loved it. It was beautiful. It was, it worked out really well. But also think of things like that where if they're wanting, say, flowers and you were like, "Well, I love this one flower farm, but it's like a half an hour away." You might not wanna do that unless they have, like, a really long session or they have a session that you can kinda, like, split and you can do a location, say, in the morning and then another location in the afternoon, evening, something like that. So, yeah, so like I said, a lot of times seniors might not know exactly where they want to be. They might say like, "I love flowers," and then all of a sudden within the conversation, you're like, "I think you're more drawn to th the country," whatever it is. Um, I also ask, I've had where s kids will be like, they love greenery and nature and things like that, but then all of a sudden they kinda like you hear in the conversation about bugs, or maybe they are like, "I love these water photos and I wanna be in the water too." Because I've had this happen, my next question is, are you okay if there are, frogs or fish or anything around you in the water? Because if we're at a lake, those things are going to be there. And I have had kids where they're like, "Oh, no, I don't want to do that." So then they'll be maybe by the water, but they're not going to get in the water. So it's little things, and it's really how I've learned. It's not because I just knew to ask that. It's actually because I had a senior that just totally freaked out because she was in the water and the frogs were like jumping. And yeah, those photos did not turn out. So it's live and learn as well. So take that one. So I have a little confession. Some of my favorite senior sessions almost didn't happen because someone started out their consultation with, "I have absolutely no ideas." And almost every time, those become my favorite galleries. So just make sure that you're having that conversation, that you're not just like, okay, like over email saying, "This is where I want to go." Make sure you're having the conversations and really making these senior photos the experience for them and tailored to them. If today's episode helped you think differently about planning your senior pictures, or, if you're a photographer and thinking about how you're going to really like dive deeper into your consultations, I also have put together a free resource that goes even deeper. It's called How to Choose the Perfect Location for Your Nebraska Senior Pictures, and I'll link it in the show notes. If you're not a Nebraska senior photographer or senior, and you don't plan to come here for your senior photos, you can still look at that. It'll still give you ideas, and just to kind of how to figure out your session or your client session. Next time in this series, we're tackling another question that I kind of hinted at earlier. This is another thing. I'm sure if you're a photographer, you hear this all the time. I hear it all the time. If you're a client, you're thinking it. What should I wear for my senior pictures? So that's next time. Until next time, keep showing up, keep telling your story, and remember, the best photos aren't about perfect poses. They're about feeling like yourself. I'll see you next time right here on The One Behind the Lens.